bi women who say this really just have a bunch of internalized homophobia. That's why they're so scared.
Well, yes, it's internalized homophobia, and as a bisexual, when some of us say men are just so much easier to date, that's code for women require a level of accountability that I'm just not willing to show up for. So many of these girls, if you put them in a situation that's predominantly sexual, they have no problem making the first move. Because an environment that's predominantly sexual is inherently intimate. It's a space that protects them from needing to own to their friends and their family and their social circle that they're even a little bit gay. Whereas taking a woman seriously romantically requires them to deal with what it means to hold hands with a woman in public, what it means to be on a date with a woman and be perceived as on a date with a partner versus as besties. It requires them to be perceived as not just sexually open in a way that makes them cool and fun and sexy within the male gaze, but actually gay, actually subversive, actually against the predominant culture that we're raised to believe we have to be. And I'm naming these critiques because I was once that girl. In my 20s, I was comfortable with being seen as sexually explorative in a way that made me cool and sexy, but I was terrified of being perceived as even a little bit gay, and that's why I can clock it in other bisexual women now. And it took me until my 30s to really own my sexuality in public because I waited until I trusted myself to really stand on not just being open with my relationships with women, but also fighting for queer rights constantly, which is why you see me doing so often here and in other platforms and in real life. But it's not just the taking on of queerness externally that these girls are afraid of. It's also knowing that women are going to require them to show up in ways that men simply can't and do not. Due to the way we're socialized around gender, to view our feelings and feel about our feelings and to communicate our feelings, the reality is most men are just now learning the communication skills they need to have a healthy relationship. Which means as a woman, you can always be the person who's the most emotionally evolved in the room. You can have a relationship where you are teaching your partner how to show up. But with women, I am pushed in a good way to grow in ways that I never have with a man, and that's just my personal experience. Where with men, they often opt out of the difficult parts of a relationship by falling back on constructs of masculinity whenever they need to name feelings they don't want to talk about, or whenever they need to own up for simply being careless with the person they're seeing. And conversely, women will require that you own up to the ways you are doing that. And honestly, dating women requires a level of self honesty that I've grown to love, but it was challenging to get into at first. And so when bi women say men are easier to date, they mean men do not require them to grow in the way women do.